2 or 3 inches of snow in the lowland and about 4 foot up over in the highland. And it was quite fantastic because we went non-stop, and every one of the troop behind me suffered from eye problems from the exhaust of the tank in front.
And I mean, looking at it here, I mean, I think one of the really sensible things about the Sherman is the track system, because, you know, I've said it before, but if you've got an incredibly complex thing like a tank, you want to keep it as simple as you possibly can. And unlike the Panther, for example, which has something like 36 interleaven wheels, this is very simple, and you've got the suspension bogies here on the outside, so that if you do need to repair one, it's very easy to do that in the field. And presumably there were quite a lot of maintenance checks that your crew had to do every single day, weren't there?
And we did actually, in the earlier tank, have a rather different suspension, which was not quite so accessible, and it was changed in the later version to the better suspension. But yes, if we broke a track, it was the crew's job to put the track back, and that was quite an interesting operation. You park the tank, lay the track out, and then bring the tank back over the track and fitted the track, and then pulled it all together.
And you unbolt this here, don't you? And pull that off, and then these bolts come out, and that unlinks it. So, you know, with a half decent socket set, you can sort of do it.
I used to have a fitter, so he used to do it. We keep out of his bloody way.
But generally speaking, I mean, the Sherman gets a lot of criticism because it doesn't have as big a gun as the Tiger or the Panther or whatever. But it is really quick to fire, isn't it? And quick to manoeuvre, and the turret goes around quick.
Those were the two real benefits we had with the Sherman over the Tiger. The Sherman was much more quickly manoeuvrable, much quicker on the move and turn, and I had a technique. If I were in combat with a Tiger, my technique was that I would let loose 2 armor-piercing shells aimed at their turret ring on the where the turret joins the hull, and then a couple of HE to make a big noise and scatter a bit of shrapnel about. And while they were worrying a little bit about that, they weren't worrying so much about aiming their gun at me. And my driver did a quick little back shuffle and a shuffle about, so that we moved perhaps only a few yards away from where we'd fired. So they had to readjust their aim, and I think that was quite helpful in keeping us alive.
Well, I remember John Semkin, who was obviously commander of A Squadron soon after you got out to Normandy, and he told me that what he did was he'd get his troop to, as soon as they saw anything, they'd all just fire at it as quickly as possible. And his point was that the moment you hit an enemy tank, the hatches go down. And the moment your hatches go down, your visibility is massively, massively reduced. And that then gives you the opportunity to maneuver yourself into position. And I don't know how you did it in C Squadron, but certainly in A Squadron, they changed the troops around. So instead of having a 3-tank 75mm Sherman troop, they would have a 4-tank troop, with the 4th tank being a 17-pounder equipped Firefly. And then the theory was that you would then get the Firefly to deliver the coup de grace.
Yes, we didn't have the Firefly early on. We were only issued with them a bit later, but yes, my troop developed from 3 75mm to to a Firefly with the 17-pounder gun. The snag with the Firefly was that the gun barrel had to be supported in movement, and you had to unlatch the gun barrel if you were going to engage. So you engaged with the 75s and then used the Firefly to come on later.
And the other thing, of course, is that, just because you've got a 75mm, not quite high, not extreme velocity 75mm gun as you do on this Sherman, that doesn't mean to say you can't knock out Tigers and Panthers. And you mentioned George Dring earlier on, and his crew, a killer. That crew on the 26th of June 1944 managed to shoot 5 tanks, knock out 5 enemy tanks with their 75mm Sherman, including 2 Tiger tanks, 1 Panther and 2 Panzer Mark IVs. So if you were in the right position and you were firing in the right way and you could outfox your enemy, you could certainly knock out a Tiger or Panther with one of these.
George wasn't in my squadron, but he was quite a good friend for some reason or other. And when I first joined the regiment, and I got chatting to George, and I said, "Well, what do you do when you see one of them other tanks?" And he said, "Go straight at it, boy. Don't hang about. Straight into it, and let go as quick as you can."
Easier said than done.
George frightened the life out of most of us. He was absolutely fearless, and everything he seemed to do would be face on, where others of us might be manoeuvring about a bit or trying to get a bit of cover or something. George didn't care. George went in. George became a very good friend late in my life, because he happened to live in Grimsby and I lived 10 or 12 miles away, and I actually nursed him through prostate cancer, going to visit him every day. And he was a very, very direct man, and he didn't suffer fools gladly, and he gave you the benefit of his opinion.
Well, the great nephew, Terry, over there, the great nephew of Sid Gold, who was his driver, I think that was right? Yeah, the driver of a killer, is just sat there. I have to come and say hello afterwards, but anyway.
George's picture.
Anyway, but you must have a chat, Terry, afterwards. But 5 minutes' time we're going to start it up. So, well, we're going to start up Sherman now. So, check your hearing aids, and we're just going to start. I'm sorry we can't see it in action today, but hopefully most of you saw it yesterday. But as you've probably gathered, I'm quite a big fan of this tank. No, not at the moment.
It's been a good friend to me in life.
It has it was known as the Tommy Cooker and the Ronson and all the rest of it. And one of the things when I was researching Brothers in Arms, I read a number of reports about casualties in tanks and about what caused tanks to be destroyed. And there wasn't any evidence at all that Shermans were more likely to brew up than any other tank. And the truth of the matter is also that 75% of all casualties occurred to people actually outside of the tank, and both your woundings were outside of a tank, weren't they? So the first one being sniped, and then the second time during Operation Blackcock near Heinsberg.
I was actually in my turret when I was sniped, and I'm not in it. I was standing chest up and just pulling my lid down and like that, and I got a bullet in here, which set in my left arm.
And you recovered from that, and then got out to rejoin the Sherwood Rangers in, I think, early January 1945, just in time for Operation Blackcock, which was the straightening of a part of the line on the kind of west wall, the Seafried line, just to the kind of sort of north of Geilenkirchen, sort of, not a million miles from Dusseldorf. Yeah, just inside Germany. And the objective was to get for the Sherwood Rangers and for the 52nd Lowland Division was to get to Heinsberg, and I think it was the second day of battle you were wounded, wasn't it?
I'm not. Yes, we had been in battle. I'd been with the KRRC for a bit, and then I got joined by Lowland Scottish. Great lot of chaps. I think probably the best infantry cover for a tank troop that I came across.
There's a keen follower of the pod called Andy Aitchison, who is very, very obsessed with the 52nd Lowland Highland Division, and he'll be very, very happy to know that you thought that. And if he's not here, I will have to make sure I pass that on to him.
Thanks for that, James.
And what happened to you when you were wounded the second time?
My troop sergeant, Sergeant Torben by name, had a mortar bomb fall on the top of his tank and killed him. And I was busy trying to reconcert the tank crew because we were half an hour off going into action. And my acting squadron commander, Jackie Holman, was my squadron commander, but had gone on leave, and I had an acting squadron commander who was rather a nervous chap, and he kept calling an O group, which meant you got out of your tank and went to squadron headquarters and talked to the squadron commander, and I was trying to tidy up my sergeant's tank, and I kept getting this call from him to go to an O group, and eventually went. And on my way back from the O group, I heard a whiz and a bang. I thought, bloody hell, Naberwerfer. Went on a bit and heard another whiz and a bang and thought, getting a bit close. Went on a bit and heard a third bang. Said, God, I better get my bloody head down. And I was diving for cover when the fourth shell from Naberwerfer, which are 5-barrel mortar. The fourth shell caught me in the left lung mostly with shrapnel. I still have my shrapnel. I still have problems at the airport in getting past the security guys because it sets them off. I was unconscious and taken into a nearby American hospital. I was unconscious for a couple of days or so, and they thought I was on my way out. I had different thoughts. But when I came to, I had a locker beside my bed, and lying on the little locker was a Purple Heart. It was only an imitation one, apparently.
I should just add that the Purple Heart is a wound medal issued by the US Army.
And I thought, oh God, I've got an American medal. And a chap came round with a clipboard and said, "What's your regiment, soldier?" And I said, "Sherwood Rangers." "Who the hell are the Sherwood Rangers?" And I said, "Only the best tank regiment in the British Army." And he said, "Oh, you're a bloody limey. You can't have that." Took the Purple Heart away.
But the only reason you survived is because your wife had given you a wallet, hadn't she? And you had that in your chest pocket, and it just took away enough of the force to prevent it piercing your heart. Isn't that right?
That's absolutely true. And I met my wife in quite late September and got her to marry me in December. And you know, marry in haste and repent at leisure. We were married for 72 years. But my wife gave me for my 21st birthday, I think, a leather wallet with 2 photographs of her in it, and I carried it on the inside breast pocket of my battle dress everywhere and always. And when I got hit by the mortar bomb, a piece of shrapnel pierced the photograph cover, went into my chest, and when the surgeon opened up my back, took out 2 ribs and put a rubber tube in my lung and all sorts of queer things like that, when he opened up, he said, "God," he said, "you've got a bit of shrapnel resting on the wall of your heart. Another couple of millimetres and you'd have been a god 'un." And so my wife's photograph saved my life.
Well, I've got to say there's going to be an exhibition about the Sherwood Rangers at the National Army Museum in Chelsea, opening in the first week of December and running through to May next year, and that wallet will be one of the exhibits in the exhibition. Well, Stan, thank you so much again for. I'm really making you sing for your lunch today, but thank you very much for coming out, and it's been lovely to see you up by the Sherman again.
I'm just singing through lunch.